Okay, we are live. As promised, this is part two of my Moving to Vietnam to Teach English series to help new teachers, travelers, and people who want to come out here. And this video here, this specific one that you clicked on, will be focused on the very beginning steps and how I did it. And I'll also link a recruiter who has helped me with two jobs. He works for a company, Learn TEFL. I personally vouch for him. He's gotten me hired twice, and his company's legit. So I'm not paid by him. I don't get a cut for anything. I'm literally doing that because he's helped me. So this is what happens. Say you want to do this. Say you want to come teach overseas. You get your bachelor's degree. You graduate, right? So what's next? You have to do a thing called a TEFL, which is Teaching English as a Foreign Language. It's a 150-hour class generally. There's different ones, but usually you want to get the 150-hour one. I did mine online, and it's really easy. It's basic stuff about classroom organization, different ways to identify students that might have autism, how to prepare lessons, a little bit of everything. In my opinion, is it worth the large amounts of money that some of these companies like Ninja something? There's some YouTube company. I don't want to hate on them. Ninja Teacher or something like that, where they make a profit. They're like, oh, we'll get you a TEFL, we'll get you hired, and you spend all these thousands of dollars. Literally, you could do it yourself for a couple hundred and save, and there'll be a job placement on the end. You don't need these third party places like Ninja Teacher and all that stuff. No disrespect to them. I mean, if that's their hustle. But I've noticed that the kind of people that they hire are all young, attractive, good-looking people. So it's all young, hip, 20-year-olds. So if you're in my category, in your late 30s, you're not looking around to be around that. You know what I mean? You're looking for a more mature, self-reliant approach about, getting this job. So you will do this TEFL class. Next, you will get in contact with a recruiter. And it depends on where you're at. So if you're already in Vietnam, if you're in a different country, all I could do is share my experience from what it was from an American standpoint, being that I was in America. And this was in 2019 going into 2020. So the pandemic was just starting at very scary times. Nobody knew what was happening. I had just graduated college, and here I am applying to go to the other side of the world. And I signed up for a company called Learn TEFL. They might have changed their name slightly, but type in Learn TEFL. I'll also link the website to the recruiter. And there was a job placement at the end. And they, I did a couple things. There's a TEFL disclosure form, which will ask, do you have allergies? Do you suffer from depression? Do you have a criminal history, etc.? You'll fill out one of those. You'll submit a scanned copy of your degree, of your TEFL, your transcripts. There's a real bad problem of people, using fake degrees. So it's important that you prove that your degree is valid, that it is, real. They'll have the official seal, and you'll also have to take it to the embassy once you get in the country to get it looked at and to get the official Vietnamese stamp on it. But so you get an offer. Say your recruiter is going to do. He's going to make a profile on you. So he's going to take your degree, your CV, which is your resume. They call it CV here in Vietnam. In America, we call it resume. So you'll have a 1-minute introduction video. So you'll be like, "Hi, my name's Indy. Teaching's always been a passion. I've always wanted to travel the world. I feel like this would be a great opportunity for me to broaden my worldview and a chance for me to grow as a teacher, to challenge myself, etc., etc." You want to sell yourself. Granted, It does help to try to make yourself look as presentable as you can. So, try to look pretty, try to look handsome. In Asian culture, if you go to places like South Korea specifically, even the males are getting plastic surgery. It's a hyper focus on like superficial things such as looks. Vietnam, not so much, but still look presentable. Don't look like a bum, and show confidence. Stare at the camera. Don't be shy. Fake it till you make it. Even if it's your first time, show confidence. That's what they're looking for. And you're gonna do a 1-minute introduction video about who you are. So that'll be part of your portfolio. So you'll have your resume. It has to be a scanned copy of your 4-year college degree. And just so you know, your 4-year degree does not have to be in English. So if you want to teach in places like South Korea, Japan, Laos, Cambodia, South Korea, Taiwan, China, a few other spots, pretty much everywhere, you just need that 4-year degree and then that TEFL. So you're going to submit the degree, the TEFL, the 1-minute introduction video, and then you're going to submit a picture of yourself, because a lot of what a recruiter's, a school's going to look for is like, what's this person look like? It's basic psychology. A lot of when you judge somebody will be by their appearance, even if it's just a still shot of me just doing this. You're going to make an assumption about me. You're going to come to a conclusion about the kind of person I am, either by the fact that I don't shave, the way I wear my hair, the color clothes I wear. Schools will do the same. So, so you're going to submit a picture as well. You'll also submit a background check. So you'll have to do in America at least, you'll want to do an FBI background check, which takes time. You have to so I'll give you some tips for any Americans. You have to go to the post office, submit your fingerprint. They have a fingerprint reader there. So you will submit a fingerprint, pay a fee, and then the FBI will send you copies, sealed. Do not open them. Just keep them sealed. And that will be your official background check. Now, you could get background checks when you're in country here, but that's once you're already here. And so, you get all these things together. And then once your recruiter has a portfolio on you, maybe you might even have to write like a small essay about why you want to be a teacher. And they're just going to, see how good of a writer you are, how creative you are. Then your recruiter is going to sell you around. He, is going to pitch you around to all these different schools. So your recruiter is going to be, networked. They're going to have jobs, friends, business partners. And let's just use Vietnam, for example. Say you're trying to get a job in Vietnam. The majority of people are going to want Hanoi or Ho Chi Minh City. So usually jobs are going to be split from North Vietnam or South Vietnam. And the split is usually Hanoi. Even though it's not a 50-50 split, that's generally where it's considered. And different recruiters are going to have different access to different, schools, different relationships and connections and people. But it's their job. They make money if they can find you a job. So if you get hired, they get a percent. They get rewarded through the school. They get paid. So there's an incentive for the recruiter to get you hired. So as long as you do your due diligence and do what's expected of you, they will try to help you, because that's how they're going to make money. You're not paying them. They make money once you get hired. The schools that are recruiting go to these companies, and that's how they make money. So, so then one day you'll get an email that, hey, this school, BVB English, based out of Hanoi, is interested and would like to do a Skype call with you. So please submit your Skype information and a time that you're available. And your first meeting it'll generally be a couple people. You'll speak to. There's generally your first recruiter. And then there's a second recruiter that's based just for that company, right? So there's the Vietnam recruiter, then there's the recruiter just for that company who's going to interview you. And if they like you, then they'll do a third interview, which will be with the actual school itself. But so you'll go to your, let's talk about that first interview and what to expect. That first interview, it really helps. Don't be here like, yes, yes. Just have fun. Hello, ma'am. Yes, sir. Yes, joke, have fun, be relaxed, be yourself. It is very important. I know how scary. It's easy for me to say like, hey, just be relaxed. Talk, pretend it's somebody you're having coffee with. I know if this is your first job out of college, or if if you're not as experienced, that's gonna be harder. But trust me, the more relaxed that you can, portray yourself. The more reserved, the more ways that you can show that you're relaxed, calm, is going to give you a better chance at making a good impression with that person. So what you'll do, they'll meet with you, they'll ask you, okay, so tell us a little bit about yourself. And you'll be like, so, my name is Indy, and I've served in the military, been going to college for this many years, and so on and so on. And yeah, so, they'll do the basic pleasantries of where you'll talk about your work history, your education. Then they'll start asking you stuff like, so why do you want to be a teacher? And when it comes to questions like that, keep it simple. You don't if you want words of wisdom, keep it simple. Don't come up with a whole long 2-hour speech about how you want to change the world and you're gonna do this and that. Like, just be honest. Like, I want to travel. I want to see the world. I want to try different things. I see this as an exciting opportunity. I do enjoy teaching. If you do enjoy that, say that. But these recruiters have heard it all. And if I was a recruiter and I was recruiting you, I'd rather somebody just be frank, just be honest, and be like, look, I want to see the world. And sounds like a very good opportunity, a good starting point for me to first learn how to be a teacher, and for me to, start my journey. So keep it simple, keep it real. Do not be fake. If you be fake, if you go up there and try to, pitch something that you're not, people are going to spot it. I'm telling you, being genuine will get you hired a lot more than selling stories. So they'll ask you why you want to be a teacher. You'll give them a brief reason why. And so they might be like, okay, so depending on your level of experience, let's say that you've taught before, they're going to ask you some, theoretical questions or hypothetical questions. So they might be like, all right, what is your, methodology for controlling students? And you might be like, well, I like to use the carrot more than the stick approach. So what I like to do is have a point-based incentive method of rewarding my students for good behavior. So whenever a student participates or pronunciates a word good or behaves well, I will give them a point, and I'll make sure that all the other students see it. And these points will, maybe if you get 5 points, you get candy, or there'll be some kind of reward, some kind of way to, that these kids, and trust me, take it for somebody who's been doing this for a couple of years. If it's either like dollars, fake dollars, candies, points, whatever it is, these kids love it. To them, that is everything. So it really works. Then they might ask you, so what is your approach if you have a student who will not behave? What are you going to do? So, and here's good. I'll go ahead and just give you a good answer. What I do, and what I do is I pull the student to the side. So I'll be like, hey, Tuan, let me speak to you. well, I'll pull the student outside and I'll be like, "What's going on, man? Why are you misbehaving? Why are you just disturbing the class?" A lot of the time, the student, just the fact that you called them out, the fact that you are gonna hold them accountable, and the other students see that is enough for them to be like, "Oh, I'm sorry, teacher, it won't happen again." And you'd be like, "All right, man, pinky promise, you like you're gonna be good. Like I believe in you." Always compliment them, always try to try to build the kid up. Don't break him down. Your job there is to mentor, to be an inspiring figure for them, not to break them down, not to use threats of, "Oh, I'm gonna call your parents." So the recruiter is gonna ask questions like that. um, what are some other things they might ask? They might ask you about like some basic stuff. So a lot of times they'll be like, "So, what is a teaching objective?" And to me, or they'll ask like, "What is an objective?" To a military guy, well, that's simple. An objective, it's your goal. It's the what your aim is. So is your objective to teach the kids speaking, A, B's, and C's? Is your objective to have the students learn about Egypt? Your objective is a set of goals. That is what your primary mission is for that lesson. But one of the recruiters joked to me and said that a lot of times people will not even know what an objective is. So be sure you know what an objective is. A recruiter's going to ask that. And another thing, just another word of advice: keep your answers just short, confident, and sweet. You don't need to blab on for 5-10 minutes. Just tell them what you're going to do. And if it's your first time, yeah, I mean, you can't help. Just say, "Look, this is what I did my first time. I said that for things that I don't know, it's going to be a lot of trial and error. So I will utilize a lot of different approaches, and I will learn as I go. I will communicate with my other, teachers and my coworkers or my head teacher, or I will, go online and see what works for other teachers. I will utilize other resources to help me, overcome different challenges that I might face as a teacher." So that is kind of like what the recruitment thing, the first interview will be like. And so they'll thank you and they'll be like, "All right, well, we might be in touch." And that recruiter will contact the school, and they'll usually record it. So the school, which will usually be the Vietnamese staff, will look at it. They'll watch a little 5-minute clip of you speaking, seeing what your accent's like. So if I have a country accent, you might have a New York accent. Or sorry, I don't have a very good New York accent, but you might have a New York accent. You might have a Louisiana Bayou accent, but they're gonna hear that, and if they like you, you're gonna get a offer letter in the Gmail, and your offer letter will be like, "Congratulations, based off your interview, we would like to offer you a full-time teaching position at this school, starting on this date, of a salary bonus of $40 million per month, 14 days off a year, completion bonus of this, sign-on bonus of that. We'll help you with the airplane cost." So if you're coming from America, generally what they'll do is they'll pay for your airplane and your visa and your hotel to get you established. They'll pay for that up front and then deduct it from your check. And generally you're going to sign a year contract. I mean, but this all depends. Like, I'm already in Vietnam, so if I'm looking for a different school, my approach is going to be different. Since I don't need to be flown to Vietnam, I'm already here. So my whole experience about getting new jobs is totally different. This is more for people who are just brand new, coming from America and wanting to learn what it's going to be like. So you accept the job, and you submitted all your documents. You got your airplane. They'll buy you an airplane ticket. They'll have everything set out for you. Like, all right, January 10th, you're flying out. You're gonna go to San Francisco and then a layover to South Korea. from South Korea to Hanoi. When I arrived, it was during the pandemic, so there was COVID lockdowns. I was locked down in Hanoi for like 3 weeks, and people in hazmat suits. I don't think it's like that anymore, luckily. But so yeah, you'll get moved here. It'll be scary, but just go with the flow. And in the beginning, they'll generally help you find housing, and all that stuff. Obviously, I mean, they're not gonna. If it's a good school, if you have a good recruiter, now if you're just going to some back wall mom and pa school, be sure that you're doing your research. Do some Google searching, check some forums, ask around, know your recruiter. I'll refer you my recruiter, who I personally vouch for, who is a professional, been doing this for years, and will get you with some of the best teaching programs that there is. But so yeah, so airplane day will come, right? You fly into the country, you're picked up, and generally your first week at a school will be training. So you're going to be, doing trainings and demos, and it all depends. Like for example, my training was 100% online because we were locked down because of COVID. What it would be like for you will probably be like in person. So you'll probably make friends with other people in your training group. And if you have no teaching experience, like when it comes to like teaching kids, well then it's gonna be challenging. Trying to you have to do a lot of role playing, stuff like that. But look, if I could figure it out, and this is not something I'm good at, I can race motorcycles, build things, draw art, climb a mountain, whatever, be Batman. But when it comes to teaching kids, that's not something that I was good at. Maybe I've gotten better, granted, but in the beginning. But yeah, a lot of training in the beginning. And then, there's going to be a lot of paperwork signing you up. So you just can't sign up for a bank account when you come to Vietnam. Your school has to sponsor you. So if you want to have like a bank account called like Vietcom Bank or BIDV, or there's hundreds of different banks around here, Bank of Hanoi or whatever, Saigon Bank. Your school has to sponsor you and has to do the paperwork for you to open up a bank account. As a foreigner, you can't just open up an account on your own. So your school will do that for you. Set up your direct deposit, and yeah. And generally, each school is going to be different. In the schools that I worked at, so there's different ways. You can work at government schools, which are during the day, normal schools. So you're going to have normal kids, elementary, kindergarten, all the way up to high school kids, depending on your skill level and your preference. Then you have things called language academies. And a lot of these parents, these kids have it really hard. They go to school all day long, 7 in the morning till 5 p.m. And then they're at a language academy from 5 p.m. till 9 p.m. Get home, a couple hours of homework, and then boom, get a couple hours of sleep and you're right back at it. And the parents, they do this because they're putting all their hopes and dreams that, the kid will be successful. Therefore, in return, that they'll be able to help take care of them when they're older. So they invest so much into, trying to get these kids the best possible chance at a successful future that they can. Then you have schools such as like the IELTS, program, which is this international grading way of how people grade your English skills. So it's like internationally recognized IELTS, like IELTS, I believe, or something like that. And you have like a score 6.0, 7.0, 8.0. To get into university, you generally want like a 6.5, 7. So a lot of like the things that kids are doing early on is all leading them up to go learn IELTS to apply to get a higher IELTS so they could go to university and be more successful in life. But yeah, your role as a teacher, will be generally, depending if you choose to work at like a normal school during the day. So you're up at 7 in the morning, thousands of kids running around, classroom of like 40 kids, or a language center like what I've done, which is, you start your shift at 5:30 p.m., which I love. It means you can sleep in the morning. And yeah, you'll teach after hours. So after the kids have already been to school. So you're like a private school almost in a sense. The parents are paying extra. They not only do they want the school's way of teaching English, but they want a separate company that specializes in it. So you'll choose between if you're an introvert like me, somebody who hates crowds, loud noises, and if you're brand new to it, I suggest that you do a private school, a language center. Don't do the public schools. Don't do government schools. Do language centers, and those are the ones where you'll have maybe like 13, 14 kids to a class instead of 40. Those are the ones where you might have like a smart TV. They'll have a program already made out for you. Of course, each school, there are thousands of schools. Each school is going to be so different. The one I worked at was Apex, and it was so nice because literally there was no lesson planning at all required of me. I literally just looked at the date. There was a schedule. So today is the 10th of October. So that means we're doing lesson 1, A1, lesson 1. So I would just find that folder, and there would be PowerPoints in there, videos, worksheets, anything you needed for that whole lesson. So you just come in 10 minutes before your class starts, print off what you need, and boom. Literally, within 10 minutes, you're ready to teach. And there was nothing I had to take home with me. Like literally, like as soon as my shift was done, I'm out. No lesson planning, no grading, none of that. I loved that. You're not gonna have that if you go to public schools or or the majority of a lot of the language centers will require you to come up with your own stuff, or they'll give you an outline like here's the book, teach chapter 1. So you have to come up with a lesson. Like you'll have a general idea. Okay, you'll see 3 different pages. This is chapter 1. Bob's birthday party. So then it's up to you to make up a lesson. You have 60 minutes. So come up with something. I'm not good at that at all. I really struggle with that. I'm a good teacher if the planning has already been planned out. If I could hire somebody just to make my lessons for me, I could do the teaching fine. We'll talk about Batman, Iron Man, have the kids laughing. I have the charisma, or at least the mask of a charisma. I can fake it enough to make sure the kids have enough fun, and that they learn, and that it's not boring. So that the kids learn. But if you ask me just to come up with a lesson, it's just crickets. All I know is just PowerPoints, and PowerPoints take hours of work. You're looking for images, applying the images. You're trying to figure out. Sometimes you might have a lesson that only has 4 words to it. It'll be 1 page with 4 words and maybe 5 sentences, and you have to make a lesson with that. How? I've been doing this 2 years, and I'm still trying to learn how to do that. So those are just some examples, of different kinds of ways that, but granted, I hear that there's a lot of stuff online, teachers, I've done this all by myself. I'm very introverted. I don't befriend other teachers. I don't hang out with people. I don't look for online resources. I just do everything by myself, or the help of people that I'm close with. But I'm sure there's thousands of resources out there to help teachers. People who've already put whole lessons out there for free. Oh, and also you're going to be using YouTube a lot, so you'll play songs and depending. I've done everything. I've done little kids, literally where you're doing the hello, 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 how are you? That song makes me want to, where your basic, letter A, and a kid hits it with a hammer, all the way up into, you're talking about ancient Egypt and why, the Egyptians would, mummify, or whatever the proper word for that is, why they would do that to their pharaohs and stuff like that, or take the organs out and preserve them. So I mean, I've had a little bit of teaching of every from that high level to the beginning level. My favorite is the kids that like to talk about like superheroes or like Elsa. The girls love Elsa. Let it be, let it be. The boys love, Thor and Iron Man, Spider Man. I love that kind of stuff, And yeah, like me, they call me Batman. I'm always wearing black. I got my Batman helmet, my Batman motorcycle. But so yeah, that is the recruiting process for what to expect when you apply to teach in Vietnam. So that I talked. The last video was kind of like broadly about what it's like. Now I've talked about what the recruiting, what the what the process is like. Next video, I'll talk about what a class is like. I'll kind of give you guys a mock example of what a class will be like. I'll tell you some stories, some horror stories, some good stories, some scary stories. I'll tell you some funny stories. So my next video will be all about different experiences I've had as a teacher for the last 2 years. But if you want to teach in Vietnam, it's going to take some work. You're going to have to be adaptable. And it all depends on where you go. Keep in mind, I'm in Lao Cai. I'm in Sapa. I am on the China border. I'm at the very top of Vietnam. So I am deprived of all the luxuries. So my experience was so much more challenging than somebody who goes to Ho Chi Minh City, where there's whole communities just full of expats. So literally, you might as well just be living back in your original country because everything that you left is going to be there. So it just depends on what kind of teacher do you want to be. Do you want the comforts of everything that you leave behind? Or do you want to be like, a friend once told me there's two different kinds of teachers. There's the ones like what I'm doing and what she was doing. The real teachers, the ones that push ourselves. The ones that go to the rural parts of Vietnam where no one speaks English, where you might be the only Westerner, the part where you have to learn how to adapt, where you're gonna get an actual real feel of what Vietnam feels like, or you